What up, everybody? Now that B. Mickey is dead and buried and Lamar's most likely dead and gone, either though I still have my doubts about that, I hope everyone now understands that BMF is only based on a true story. And just because a character is still alive in real life doesn't mean they're gonna survive on the show, especially when a character really no longer serves a purpose to the real life storyline, like how D. Meeks, who B. Mickey was based on, was no longer in Meech and Terry's lives at that point in time. Most everybody understood this, but when I made a couple videos earlier in season 4 talking about B. Mickey potentially getting killed, I had a group of people in my comment section trying to clown me because the real B. Mickey's still alive. Well, I guess the joke was really on you. But with that said, we do know that certain characters will survive until the end of the series. Not because they're alive in real life, but because it was revealed in one of the flash forward scenes from the series. So the characters who we know will survive, and it's important as I get into the topic of today's video, is Meech and Terry, obviously. Detective Bryant, as it showed him arresting Terry in the flash forward scene from season 2. Markeisha, as it showed T talking to her on the phone earlier in the same scene. Roland West, who Meech met up with in the very first flash forward scene from episode 1. And Charles and Lucille, we know they survived from the flash forward scene from season 3 when Meech and T were in custody, and Meech let T know that he didn't want Mom and Pops to see them get a life sentence. So that's a total of 7 characters who will be safe until the end, in addition to Special Agent Chambers, who also arrested T at the beginning of season 2. Any other character could potentially get taken off the board, especially when, like B. Mickey and Lamar in season 4, were no longer relevant to the real life story. But with that said, I think most everybody was glad that they did bring back Lamar and B. Mick for one last run for entertainment purposes. Getting me to the shootout at Terry's diner at the end of season 4 when bullets came spraying in through the glass at Terry and Markeisha's going away party. Prior to this, it showed Boom in a car with 2 hitters, telling them that his son told him that Keisha and T were trying to move to LA, and their job was to make sure that that didn't happen. So Boom also likely knew when to strike, getting info from his son that Keisha and T were having a going away party at a certain time. The characters at the diner when Boom's hitters shot it up was Terry, Keisha, and Lucille, all who we know will be safe, either though there's still a possibility that they could get shot, like we saw T already get shot in season 1 and Keisha get shot in season 2. Other characters who were there who aren't guaranteed to make it to the end was Nikki and her baby, Lil Demetrius, who either though it wasn't foreshadowed in the series already that they would survive until the end because they're family, I think it's most likely that they will. Either though Terry's diner getting shot up with Nikki and her baby in it would definitely be another traumatic experience and could have an impact on the storyline moving forward. The other characters who were at the diner at the time was Breeze, Worm, Hoop, LaWanda, her new man DeMarcus, and some other people who aren't known characters on the show. And since it was a going away celebration, likely friends or friends of the family, Keisha's friends, or something like that. So with that said, when the shooting took place, there was a few of those characters standing close to the door who were probably most likely to get hit. T was eating in a booth towards the front when LaWanda DeMarcus walked in and were standing in front of him with their backs turned away from the door. So I think the characters most likely who could have got hit would have been either DeMarcus or LaWanda. Either though we can kind of see DeMarcus covering LaWanda when the shooting goes down, making him even more vulnerable and likely to have gotten shot. If LaWanda was killed, that would have a major impact on the storyline moving forward if there is a season 5 or a spinoff, because the fact that T would have to take custody of his 2 kids or leave them with Lucille. So because of that, it's also unlikely that LaWanda got killed in the shootout, either though I do think it's a possibility that she could have got shot, with DeMarcus most likely being the one who was killed. Worm was actually standing behind Terry when LaWanda and DeMarcus showed up, and I like that. Worm showing his loyalty to Terry, despite everything Terry put him through this season, chastising him about the way he was dressed. And because of that, he demoted him to picking up Nicole from work, only to find Worm in Nicole's room and for Terry to throw him down the stairs, and ultimately threatening Worm, putting his face next to the burner on the stove when he found out that Nikki was pregnant. But through all that, Worm was the first person to stand up and have Tease back at the diner. But with that said, Terry's now put Breeze on in the game to make sure that he can provide for Nikki and his child. And him and Hooper last seen standing over on the side near the front before Terry went to sit down to eat. So in addition to DeMarcus potentially getting killed, I also think there's a chance that either Hoop or Breeze was killed also. Hoop's been around since the beginning of Season 1, dating back to Meech and Terry's 50 Boys days. But as Terry was planning to move to LA, Hoop was supposed to be staying back in Detroit and overseeing the operation there. So because Hoop's storyline was kind of coming to an end, I can see him getting killed off the show. Not to mention earlier in the episode, he told B. Mickey that he doesn't want to die or wind up in jail. Also keep in mind that when the shooting took place, the narrator OG Terry said, "Just when I thought I was getting out of Detroit, it pulled me back in." Part of the reason why he might have got pulled back in is if Hoop's dead, he won't have anybody he trusts back in Detroit to oversee the operation for him like Hoop was supposed to be doing. Then there's also the possibility of Breeze getting killed, and I think that's also a decent possibility, just adding to how Nikki has been traumatized in her life as a result of Meech and Terry being in the game. Going back to Season 1 when Lamar killed Nikki's first boyfriend Darius, now potentially her baby daddy Breeze might be killed next. Leaving the question, who's gonna handle Boom? Because when Terry first found out that Boom T-boned Marquisha's car, he said that he was gonna kill Boom. But when he got back to Detroit, he didn't do anything, leaving opportunity for Boom to continue to cause problems, now shooting up Terry's diner. Because one thing we know is that either though word's gonna get back to Meech and he's probably likely gonna want to do something about it himself, considering his mom and little sister were there at the time. He has his own problems to deal with right now, after he was just arrested by Detective Bryant at the end of Season 4 on murder charges. That could potentially be something that Terry also takes into consideration and might not make a move against Boom himself because of that. So with that said, if anybody takes out Boom, I think it will most likely be either Keisha herself or Worm, because of the way Worm was standing behind Terry right before the shooting happened, indicating he had Terry's back. And if Breeze is killed, I definitely think it'll be Worm avenging Breeze's death and ultimately getting back with Nikki and likely raising his own child to begin with. And there you have it. Leave your thoughts, theories, and predictions in the comments.